Sunrise Philippines 25I. Should Pope Francis resign? Reason number 9. RDR. Research, discover, reflect. The Sunriser. Friends, people of the world, mayong adlaw kaninyong tanan, the 7.8 billion people around the world and the 109 million of Syrians. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Mayong adlaw, mayong gabi. And so our main discussion for today is focused on reason number 9. Should Pope Francis resign? Reason number 9. Violation of the law of nature. Balaod sa kinaiyahan. Unsa ba ang mga balaod sa kinaiyahan? If we have to refresh the different kinds of laws, divine law, balaod sa langit, balaod sa Diyos. Law of nature, balaod sa kinaiyahan. The law of nature. Moral law, balaod sa mga virtudes sa tao, moralidad. And the human positive law, balaod nga hinimo sa tao. This divine law, law of nature, and moral law are fixed by divine plan, fixed by God. O kining law of nature, appeal na niini as offered by God. And it cannot be amended, it cannot be repealed, as it is a law of nature. O kung sa ba kining mga balaod sa kinaiyahan, it deals on the sciences. Number 1, doon ay 7 ka mga balaod sa kinaiyahan. And what we have to digest is the 7th law of nature. Para makuha nato unsa kining balaod sa kinaiyahan, labi na sa ikapito, which is our subject matter. The first of the 7 laws of nature, the law of attraction and vibration, which is all about on vibration. Number 2 is what we call as the law on polarity. Unsa kining that everything is dual. dual. Everything has its pair of opposites. The very reason that we have male and female opposites. We have husband and wife. We have the church and the state. We have the body and soul. We have the heaven and earth. We have the old world and the new world. We have the new heaven and the new earth. We have the sea and the land. Dual. And we have that what we call everything has poles. So kini the same opposites are identical in nature but different in degrees. So maghisgot kita og poles. We have that north magnetic pole og ang south magnetic pole. So sa law of nature, kining earth ang kalibutan while mulibot ka na, dili kita mga hulog. Ang tubig, ang dagat, dili mga hulog because of that north magnetic pole, south magnetic pole, opposite. And that's the law of nature, speaking on dual aspect, man and woman. And so, ikatulo nga law of nature, the law of rhythm. It deals on the pattern of the movements of nature, the course of events. Everything goes through cycles. So kining tanan, dunay mga panghitabo daghan sa panahon, the movements of nature. Ingon niini the law of rhythm. Nga dili kini mausab pinaagi sa balaod sa tao. That's the law of nature. Number 4, law of relativity. Gipadayag kini ni Albert Einstein. It's understanding of cosmic processes and the geometry of the universe itself. Balaod sa relativity, dealing on space, time, matter, energy, gravity, sa speaking of the universe. The law of relativity. Dili kita makapasar og balaod nga paundangon ang pagsidlak sa adlaw ngadto na sa kahaponon. We cannot pass a law because that is a law of nature. We cannot go against the law of nature. Dili kita kapasar sa balaod. Panganod o guban pa. That's the law of nature. Di kita kapasar sa balaod nga paundangon ang kilat o dugdug. That's the law of nature. And so, ikalima, is the law of cause and effect. In Romans chapter 5 verse 12, the cause of death is sin. So with the structural sins, personal sins, mo result sa death. And that's the law of nature, cause and effect. One story, gipadayag ka na ni among professor of law, si Bartap Natser Oscar Globasa, no? In heaven. Unya, possibly anecdote kadto nga si President Magsaysay is very charitable president. Na suko si Magsaysay, gipatawag niya sakop sa kabinete. And then mingon, nga naman, possibly istorya lang kini, just to emphasize the law of nature. Mingon siya, nga nung mahal man ang pangapamaliton, dili ko gusto niya na. Mingon niyang sakop sa kabinete, Mr. President, it's because of the law of supply and demand. Unya, mingon si President Magsaysay, abolish, repeal that law of supply, demand and supply. Unya, mingon ang sakop sa Mr. President, you cannot repeal that law of demand and supply because that is the law of nature. Nagpasabot nga in application sa cause and effect. Nganong musaka usa sa factor nga musaka ang pamaliton kung gamay ang supply, dako ang demand. And so that's cause and effect. Example is the law of demand and supply. So kung dako ang demand, gamay ang supply, then musaka gyud ang mga pamaliton. That's the cause and effect. That is the law of nature. Cause and effect. And so, dili maripil o kaha, dili mausap. And so, number 6, the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Unsa ba kini that energy is always in a state of motion. It will take one form, move to another form, but is always in motion and never standing still. So perpetual transmutation of energy, ganto gina motion, always in a state of motion. That's the law of nature. Dili ka na mausab sa gahom sa tao. Gahom sa Diyos ka na. Unya, our main topic is focus on the 7th law of nature. Unsa man kining ikapito nga law of nature? That is the law of gender and gestation. What is this law of gender and gestation? Unsa man kini? Ikapito ka na nga law of nature. It is found in Genesis chapter 27 to 28. God created both male and female for reproduction. Go to the world and multiply. That's the law of nature, male and female. Genesis chapter 2, verse 21 to 24. Marital reproduction, male and female. That is gender, law of nature. And this law of nature cannot be repealed. This law of gender and gestation, which is the law of nature, cannot be amended. Dili ka na mausab because it is offered by God. That's God's divine plan, divine will, and that is the law of nature. And so, unsa man ang baruganan sa simbahan? The church is definitely no to same-sex marriage. Reason, that's a violation of the law of nature. And that law of nature is on the 7th law of nature, the law of gender and gestation. And so, unsa man di ay kini? No to same-sex marriage, one must understand the concept of God's natural law. And therefore, ang mugbungkag ni ining law of gender and gestation is violating the law of nature. Unsa ba ang gestation? It is the period from time between conception and birth. Gikan kini nga gisabak diha, miturok ang liso nga misabak diha sa maternal womb, hangtod na tao ang maong bata. Gestation period. Kini i-covered by the law of nature, the natural law of gender and gestation offered by God based on His divine plan. And so, niining puntuha karon, gidestroy ba, giguba ba, gilampornas ba kining maong natural law of gender? It is done in 2 ways. Duha ka paagi. Giunsa pagguba kining law of nature, the seventh law of nature, which is the law of gender, male or female. First, external attack. Unsa ba ang external attack? This natural law of gender was externally attacked from outside of the church. Ang miatake niini kadtong gawas sa simbahan, meaning dili church authorities, meaning naggawas muna. But remember, kini ang mga panghitabo. And to picture out the whole world, nabahin kini, the territory, and of course, land, and kining seas, no, kining kadagatan. If we talk on the land, divided into 7 continents. Of the 7 continents, we have Europe, Asia, Africa, o we have the North America, South America, Oceania, ug ang ikapito mao ang Antarctica. Question: dili na ta mohisgot sa Antarctica kay wa diha ang mga population, kay labihan kana kabugnaw, very cold, so cannot be inhabited, although naaray mga ginagmay nga makana but transient. And so the main issue now of the 6 continents nga nadiha ang mga tao, what continents are being externally attacked ni ini karong destruction of the natural law of gender. Tanawa sa mapa. Let's see the map. External attack from outside of the church through the movement of the LGBTQ, lesbians, gay, bigender, transgender, and queer. Kining nakita nga blue, this is the list of jurisdictions recognizing same-sex unions. Ang same-sex unions nga isig kalalaki, isig kababae, magminyo. Kini ang external attack, same-sex union legislation, mga balaod ka na. Unsa man kini, that's North America. The color blue we have. Mao kini ang dagan. Ang color blue naglarawan kini nga nangaigo na niining same-sex union. North America. South America, igo niining same-sex union legislation, balaod nga isig kalalaki, isig kababae, kining blue color. That's entire 2 American continents. Nasud na sila niya na. North and South America. North America, South America. This is Europe. So almost all of Europe sud na niining same-sex unions. Igo na nini. And yet these are Christian countries. Christian countries. Predominantly Christian countries. Take note of that. Now, diri sa Africa, diri dapit sa southern part of Africa, because connected ka na sa English-speaking people, American, British, mao kini ang direction ni ini connection, mga English people, American, British. What is this kini? What continent is this? This is Australia. Australia takod kini niining English American. Igo kini niining same-sex union legislation. Question: While this is Africa, diri dapita wa kaigo ni ay babag ni ini mga Muslim countries etc. On other hand, kini mao na ang China. This is Asia, Africa and Asia. Wala mga igo ni ining same-sex legislation. Wa mga igo ni ini. Ni ay tapsing-tapsing lang. So, wa mga igo kining upper part, most of the part of Africa and also in Asia. This is the scenario. In other words, who is Pope Francis? Is he a European Pope? Is he an Asian Pope? Diin man ang iyang brainstorming. He is an American Pope. What one feels inwardly, he has to express it outwardly. Nalumos kay ang iyang continents being an American Pope. The body, the states, including his nation, his country, Argentina, igo sa same-sex marriage. Puno. Unsar may wa igo sa same-sex marriage. Kinira. Yung gamay, diri, sa south o sa north. Imagine. So, mga 90%. Both North America and South America nahubog ni ining same-sex union nga mao'y nahimong balaod diha sa duha ka continents, American continents. And he being an American Pope, gilumsan kini sa sabaw sa American people, gipressure kini siya wherever you go, Pope Francis. And in fact, si President Obama, dakog kalipay, nga nahimong Santo Papa, material man. With kini ang mga panghitabo, with due respect. And that is external attack. And now, kay kini mo man ang programa sa globalist. And this is the plan of Satan against the plan of God. The plan of God, go to the world and multiply. And sa no, Paulo Fajardo Tagsep, being a church leader, is evangelist, besides being the former immediate past president of the Philippine League of Secretaries to the Sanggunian. And so, ang agenda nining globalist nga hakog, nga gubon ang population, nga dili mo sanay ang mga tao against the will of God. Sa unsang paagi, nga dili mo sanay ang tao, destroy that law of nature, destroy that natural law of gender in violation of divine plan, divine will, and divine laws. Unya karon, kanakita man nining mga hakog nga mga globalist, nining naghari sa gingharian ni Satan. Yun sa man, gitanaw nila nga niya ang Asia of the 7.8 billion people, 4.6 billion people niya nagpuyo sa Asia. O kining Asia, wa pa maigo nining same-sex marriage, same-sex union. And so that's the program now. How to penetrate Asia, how to penetrate Africa, how to enslave the entire world in destroying the law of nature, the natural law of gender. Yun sa man. Tungod kay dunay influence ang Santo Papa. Gihimo kini. Naanay mahitabo nga one world religion. Moabot ng one word, may signature na ang one world religion para one voice lang sa Santong Papa, kupo ang tanang tao sa tibok kalibutan. Ug sa pandemic, plano ni ining tanan. Part na kana. And so, ang Philippines, being the lone surviving dominant Christian country, ka-fully country in Asia. By the way, pasalamat kita ni Reverend Father Alex Nalitan, kay Reverend Father, very bright na nga pari, si Reverend Father Alex Nalitan, former parish priest of Birhen sa Kalinaw o Maayong Panaw. Iyang response sa atong diskusyon kagabi nga iyang nga ang akong professor nako sa history, ako ning pagutanon nga naman nga you taught us that Philippines is discovered by King Philip of Spain. Now, how come in our sunrise discussion, what is accredited is not King Philip of Spain, but it was accredited to Philip the Apostle? Take note that our discussion is RDR. Research, discover, reflect. There are 7 levels of deep penetration in understanding a thing. 7 ka levels of understanding with due respect. Now, if we talk on Philippines, kay mao naman kini, Philippines. Tungod lagi kay nag-shorten ta sa panahon. Kay kung ato pang i-elaborate ang tanan, di mahuman. Because San Paulo requested and everybody requested, limit your discussion to 15 minutes o 20 minutes o maximum of 30 minutes. So, gibrief na to ang tanan. Gimubo lang. No? Now, pero naagidi maigo ang tanan. The main point is this. If we talk on history, kaya this is part of history. Ang tao na hindi marunong lumingon sa pinanggalingan ay hindi makarating sa paruroonan. He who forgets the past is not worth for his future. Ang tao nga dili mantigong mulingi sa kagahapon, dili mag-abot sa iyang padulngan. There are 2 kinds of history. Take note. Capital H and small h. Small h history refers to the history without reflecting unsa may divine plan, divine will, and divine laws. Plain history. That's small h. The reason, needless to make some reflections, only R, research, plus D. Research, discover, that's history, small h. And so, talking on small h, it is an elementary primary knowledge that this nation, Philippines, will discuss naman good na to. Several discussions na, no? Several natagod-tagod na natong discuss in the history of the Philippines. Please refer to previous discussions. Now, the Philippines, of course, discovered by Ferdinand Magellan, a Portuguese, and gikuha kana sa Spanish government. And then, ang gitawag kini og Las Islas de Pilipinas, originally, that's Samar and Leyte. And so, that's Philippines, of course, in honor of King Philip of Spain. That's elementary. Nato nga pagpamalan, that's basics on history. That is small h. But palawman na to ang history. Deeper history to the 7th level. Because 7 is perfect. 7 days a week. 7 layers sa yuta padung sa ubos. 7 layers sa langit. 7 continents. 7 laws of nature. Ingon niya na ang dagan pitusan kabuo kining atong ulo. 7, that's perfection. 7 sacraments. So kung palawman nato, it would come that the very origin of this land, Philippines, could be accredited to Apostle Philip. Diin man kuhaa ang ngalan ni King Philip sa 15th, 14th century to 15th century. Of course, Apostle Philip. And why should we accredit Philip? Apostle Philip, insofar as the mission of this country, being the teacher, the light to the nations, connecting PCP to the Second Plenary Council of the Philippines. Mo-follow ta ni Apostle Philip in the book of Acts. The eunuko, gitudluan. And so, the Filipinos, Philip following Philip, Apostle Philip. Niya nga naman nga gilatangan si King Philip. What's the life of King Philip? We know, moral aspect, kinsay responsable sa pagpamatay, inquisition. Grabe ka. Moral life destroyed at si King Philip. Mao na ang idol sa mga Pilipino. Our idol is Apostle Philip. That's the point. Thank you so much, Reverend Father Nalitan. You are my angel for deeper discussions. Thank you so much, Reverend Father. And so, ari kita igo niining Asia and Philippines, niining destruction of the law of gender. Kay ang gender nahimong danger. So niya karon, after this external attack, ari na ta sa internal attack. Ang karon kay aron maigo ang Philippines and Asia, ang agihan kini sa internal attack. Kay ang mga Filipinos and others maghimog i-unite ang mga religions of the world. One world religion headed by the Pope. So that whatever be the pronouncement, follow ang tanan. O niya posible nga matuman ka na kay gipractice na kita nining pandemic period. Obedience. Here is the internal attack. History. Hinahinay ta. Pope Francis calls for civil union laws for same-sex couples. Ni anak kita nakapenetrate na sa internal attack. Sud sa simbahan. O kinsa kining mga tawhana, who are these persons inside there in the church? Responsible para maluto ang declaration ni Pope Francis. Inside there in the church. Theologians, mga pare ba? Who are these persons? Professors ba of theology? Who are these persons? Ni akaron. Dito sa Roma, Pope Francis has called in a new documentary for the creation of civil union laws. Ngayang gipanawagan in his dual capacity as head of the church and head of the government of Vatican State. Kinagamian nga state of the world is this Vatican State, 44 acres. Kinagamian ka na, but the most powerful because of the church. And so, in his capacity as head of the government or head of the state, iyang gipanawagan the creation of civil union laws para sa same-sex, giving his clearest support to date for the rights, tagaan og rights, katungod ang same-sex couples. Imagine, are we not distorting the meaning of rights? What is right? Right comes from right. Gikan kana sa truth. And truth from God. There can be no truth without God. There can be no right without truth. But murdering the truth would cause the falsification of what is right. There can be no right without truthfulness. There can be no right if we have to violate God's laws, God's plan, God's will. But what is happening? Tagaag right. And that right is God's, supposedly. Ingon ang nahitabo. And so, for same-sex couples, while breaking from the official teaching of the Roman Catholic Church. O diya, mipatinaw si Reverend Father Alex Nalitan? No. Pope Francis, wa siya mag-ingon nga dunay same-sex marriage. Correct. Ang iya lang is civil union. That's civil union. Next chapter na, we have to digest the difference between marriage and civil union. Adna na to iladlad, unsa gayon ang kahulugan. The same issue, the same effect, the same. Parihas ba? Parihas ba? Nining cellphone? Bisag nganlan kininimog iro. Bisag nganlan kininimog libro. Bisag nganlan kininimog bato. Even you name it differently, the fact that the nature of this thing cannot be changed, then regardless of the name, that's the issue. So even it is named as marriage or civil union, the same effect. That's the same effect. And so, we have here, according to the Pope, what we have to create is a civil union law. So, maghimo og ang mga gobyerno og civil union law nga naman, because he is an American Pope and he is used as the spokesman of the same-sex marriage, same-sex union continents of the world, which are these Northern America, Southern America, o kining Australia, New Zealand, in one continent, Oceania. Himuon nga modelo ang iyahang continent, American. Himuong model, spread to the whole world. Is this the mission of the Pope? Is it the evangelizing power or the evangelizer of these states, these countries, these continents, propagating the will of Satan in destroying the law of nature, the natural law of gender? Ingon ini ang maong panghitabo. And so, the public remarks that lead up to Pope Francis' call for same-sex civil union laws. Atong paminawon ang pamahayag ni Reverend James Martin. Kini si Reverend James Martin, o sa kapari, no? A prominent Jesuit. Unsa man si Pope Francis, di ba Jesuit ni? And this Reverend James Martin, nga usa ka sikat kaayo nga pare nga Jesuit, who has advocated Kini si Reverend Father James Martin mao kini nangusog for the church to more openly welcome LGBT members inside their DI. Jesuit kining grupuha sa mga paring mga dato di mga brilliant business minded. Unya unsa may giingon ni Reverend Father James Martin, iyang gidasdas ang simbahan. Let the church kinahanglan nga mo open kitag support ni ining LGBT, lesbians, gay, by gender, transgender. Kinahanglan kini mo gisubsob kini ni Reverend Father James Martin, usa ka Jesuit. In other words, Jesuit movement kini within the church founded by God, by Christ. And so, unsay pamahayag ni Reverend James Martin. This is the first time as Pope he's making such a clear statement. Niyaw na, admitted. Mi-admit gani ang iyang kauban nga Jesuit, uban pa bang pare? Insider, kauban niya. That is a clear statement from the Pope. Dipinsahan pa. And so, unsa pa'y gidugang. In a phone interview Wednesday, nagingon, I think it's a big step forward. Dako na kinig lakang forward. Dako nag-performance kini. In the past, sa miaging mga panahon, even civil unions were frowned upon in many quarters of the church. Kato mga civil unions, diha ra sa Amerika napita, continents, no? Tulo ka continents maoy mi sagup ni ini. North America, South America, ug Oceania. In other words, apil pa ang Europe, upat ka mga continents. Upat ka continents. So in other words, duha lang ka continents ang wa malamon, ang Asia ug ang Africa. So gusto nila nga lamyon. And take note, labing dako nga population ni sa Asia. 60% of the 7.8 billion people, which is equivalent to 4.6 billion people ni sa Asia. Kani mo'y kubun. And so at the pretense of the church, ingon din nahitabo. And so the remarks from the leader of the Roman Catholic Church have the potential to shift the debate for some of the 1.3 billion followers. Pila ba ka mga Christians? Of the 7.8 billion people, it's 2.4 billion ang Christians. And since Christianity divided into two, Catholics and Protestants or non-Catholics. Ang Catholics or followers is 1.3 billion Catholics or followers. So pag-pronounce sa Santo Papa, kaya mga Protestants firm na sila, no? Pero nahitabo sad sa Amerika, igo gyapon. So ma-influence ang tanan. And so unsay nahitabo ato nang na-discuss ang insider. Unsa bay dagan niini niya gaun sa aman kini during the October 21 nga usa ka film festival, Pope Francis endorsed same-sex civil unions in the feature-length documentary From Migration to the Environment and Others. So, nahitabo nga si Afernevskaya Telmore Production House via, no? Iguniin niya pa hitabo. So, sa documentary nga Francisco, kana mo'y nahitabo. And so, matud pa, we are children of God and have a right to a family. Dunay katungod alang sa pamilya. Question, what kind of family? Prospective family? Nga both male and male, both woman and woman, you are giving a right? Is it the plan of God? But destruction, destroying the law of nature, the natural law of gender. Please refer to previous discussions. And so, ingon nini ang mga panghitabo. Unya, niya pa si David Gibson. This is huge. Kinsa ba kini? David Gibson, director of Fordham University's Center on Religion and Culture. Looking behind all this, sa atong pagtanaw nining tanan, Francis is basically saying again, we are not out here to be culture warriors, but we are out here to build up the family. Maggama og familia, nga dili familia, gamaoy plano sa Dios. Ingon niya na ang dangal, is this the thrust of the Catholic Church? Or are we sitting at the chair of the church to mislead the people, the 1.3 billion followers? And shall we defend this? Choose. Revelation chapter 3 verse 15 to 16. Pili tuo o wala. Init-init, bugnaw, isuka ko ikaw. What is right is right. What is wrong is wrong. What is black is black. What is white is white. Do not make white black. Do not make black white. And so, unsa man gayon, atong paminawon si Pope Benedict XVI. Ngano bang nawa si Pope Benedict XVI? There is an inside story. Lain no na itong discuss na. Pressured si Pope Benedict XVI niining mga Illuminati globalists gamoy nagda sa plano sa kalibutan. They want to install Pope Francis kay madiktahan kini unsay mahitabo sa kalibutan. American sponsored Pope. And so, unsa ba ang officially? The church teaches that homosexual sex acts are disordered. Francis' predecessor, si Pope Benedict XVI, called homosexuality an intrinsic moral evil. Gibase sa Catechism of the Catholic Church, intrinsically evil, moral evil, and disordered. And out of it, i-introduce ni Pope Francis ang civil union to protect them. Protehian para stable ang immoral union. Ingon ini ang isyu. And so, what is the document issued by the Vatican's Doctrinal Office said, unsa ba? Legal recognition, kini mo'y padayag. Legal recognition of homosexual unions or placing them on the same level as marriage would, unsa ba, amount to the approval of deviant behavior. Ang paghimo niini sa Santo Papa, that civil union putting it on the same level as marriage would amount to the approval of that deviant behavior. And that deviant behavior is against moral law. Therefore, when the law of nature is destroyed, moral law is destroyed. When the moral law is destroyed, divine law is destroyed. Triple laws are being disrespected and destroyed. Divine law, law of nature, and moral law. Bugat ka na nga responsibility. And being the chief of the church, dakong sala. Dakong sala. And so, miingon si San Mateo, kinsa katong hinungdan nga makaangin nining mga gagmayng bata sa pagpakasala. Maayo pa hiktan ang liog o itambong ngadto sa kalayo. And so, naana sa warning ni San Pablo sa 2 Tesalonica. Unsa ba ang giingon sa 2 Tesalonica? At the end times, mahitabo ang pag-alsa sa katawhan sa Diyos. The people of God will rebel against God. Ngano nga ang katawhan sa Diyos moribildi man sa Diyos. Ngano, that is the church. The church, led by the Pope, would rebel against God. And out of that, the prophecy of Mother Mary, iyang wag panagna na daan, that Rome will lose faith. Rome will be the seat of the Antichrist. And that will be the realization of the 2 Thessalonica, chapter 1, verse 1 to 12. And so that is now the responsibility of the laity. Laigo kita. Kung problema man ang head, kita nga body, laity, that is our responsibility to stand firm. We are the church with Christ our head. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 23. Rescue Rome to the Philippines. Let the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines move on, reconsider that pastoral letter signed by Most Reverend the Bishop of Caloocan, Bishop Pablo Virgilio David, Doctor of Divinity. We hope iyang po ta nga maulian ang Buholano Bishop from Maribohok, Reverend Father Romulo Valles. Maulagi ni siya si Reverend Father Romulo Valles, akong gipangutanas parisayde, no? Kay ang akong pagumangkon sa pangagawan gikasal didto sa Katigbian. Unya, I recall Valles from Mindanao. I did not expect, no, nitong panahon na, no, nga panay mahimong presidente sa CBCP. Unya, grabe ka humble, very humble, very humble. Di gani mailhan nga obispo. Nya grabe ka nindot mo wali yun, no, very. Unsay nahitabo after sa wedding, siya na himong photographer. Siya na photographer. There is no other Valles eh. And then I asked, no? So, kinsa may laing Valles, no? And then, siya pa'y kay parinti pag umangkon man niya sa pangagawan ang gikasal nga babae. And so, tabang pag-arsa sa lamisa, just ordinary lang. Unya, dagkan siya nga, very ordinary person. If this is that bishop, Archbishop Romulo Valles, the Archbishop of Davao, na high blood ba ni sa July 2020, we pray. Our hope is the Archbishop Romulo Valles of Maribohok, Bohol nga mahimo niya reconsideration. He would have to stand firm for the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. We hope Bishop Alberto Oy, through David, Sir Reverend Father Darwin Gitgano, sa punto por punto. Catholic faith defenders, stand firm. Rescue the church. Birhin sa kasilak, Our Lady of Light, lamdagi ang among salamutan, sidlaki ang among dalang pagalaktan, sidlaki ang kalibutan, birhin sa kalinaw, ug maayong panaw, himo ang magmadaugon kining militant church para maluwas ang simbahan nga imong gitukod o Diyos. And so, that's the point. Now, kay nung duman, si Cardinal, kini si Pope Francis, sa Cardinal pa siya, Argentina. Maugyapon kini ang ihang kaagi dito. Same-sex civil unions, but not to same-sex marriage, pero maura ang unod. And so, let's we have na, kini si Thomas Tobin. Unsa ba kini si Thomas Tobin? The Bishop of Providence said in a statement, unsa ba'y padayag ni Bishop Tobin, the Holy Father's apparent support, kining suporta klaro kaayo nga pagsuporta ni Santo Papa Francis for the recognition of civil unions for same-sex, nga isig kaparihas lalaki o isig kaparihas babae, magminyo sila, needs to be clarified. Klarohon gyud kini. The Pope's statement clearly contradicts, matud pa, kining pahayag sa Santo Papa, tinaw og tataw nga nagsukwahi kini to what has been the long-standing teaching of the Church about same-sex unions. Hataas gikan pa sa pagtukod sa simbahan, gingharian sa Diyos, from Pope St. Peter. And Bishop Tobin said, the Church cannot support the acceptance of objectively immoral relationship. Dili ka na madawat sa simbahan. And now is the determination period. Kinsay mga obispo nga mokalawat ni ining gipaon sa American Pope. Kinsay mga pare nga mokalawat nining gipaon sa American Pope. In reality, nahimo lang spokesman ang Santo Papa. The brain gikan nining Northern America, Southern America, New World Order. That's on Illuminati. Because the New World Order in the American continent, centered on United States of America, gusto one world government. Unya paagi sa one world government, one world religion, kini mo'y nagdagkana. Unya arubat hipno kana one world economy, muna ardunay one world economy, ibagsak ang ekonomiya, mo'y hinungdan lockdown o guban pa, gihimong plantada, kining maong coronavirus for the purpose of pandemic. Igo ang depopulation, nagmaguba ang pamilya, guba ang tanan, ang population, downfall, downfall, downfall. That's the plan. Lain nun na ito na pag-discuss. Supposedly, sa September raunta na ito nagipadayag, but I cannot accept. I cannot believe. I cannot believe. Until migawas kini, pabilo lamang kini. daghan pang sindikato, mga pagdagan sa kalibutan. Mysteries of the world. Because we are discussing on mystery number 4. Rule 7 sa 20 rules on Philippine Sunrise Philippines. Wealth to heaven. In ng mga misteryo. And so, unsa ba ang gipadayag? Nag-ingon ang maong obispo. However, the legalization of their civil unions, which seek to simulate holy matrimony, is not admissible. Kining lakang baruganan sa Santo Papa nga himuong legal ang panag-ipon minyoon ang isig kalalaki ug isig kababae, diin mo sangpot kini sa holy matrimony. Pagkakaron, civil union muna. Ang mayor o ang huwes mo'y mukasal. Moabot gayud ka na nga mahimo ng sakramento ang pari na maoy pagkakaslon. Maoy mukasal. Dili kaha mahitabo. Ha? Di matud pa is not admissible. Dili gayud itugot nga mahitabo ka na sa simbahan. Question. Kung dili kini masumpo, dili ka posible. Ha? Nga magkatuali pag-ayo ang dagan sa simbahan. The apostasy of the church. Apostasy, withdrawal of faith from the church. Mauna ang ipasidaan sa mahal nga Birhen. And so, kini we have the Pompeo and Vatican officials face off over negotiations. Niya, matud pa for many LGBT members of the faith, Francis may not have gone far enough. Niya si Marian Daddy Burke. Kinsa ba kini si Marian Daddy Burke? Usa siya ka-executive director of the Dignity USA, a national organization of Catholics. Usa ka organisasyon sa Catholics. Ha? Diin makana sa United States of America. Strong organization sa Catholics sa United States of America. Ug unsa ba ang krusada ni Daddy Burke nga usa ka executive director? Their crusade is dedicated to LGBT rights nga dunay katungod kining maong grupo. Ug busa misangko kini kang Santo Papa. Matud pa, is this a confession that the world and legal communities are moving forward and the church is ions behind? Nalipay si Daddy Burke. Ug matud pa niya, is it a step forward? Mao nang kini ang katumanan. Or is it a way to avoid going all the way towards same-sex sacramental marriage? Because we have experienced a pulpos from the church on this, will hold our breath. Kinakita ni nga move backward, pero kini si Burke nagalaom nga maunag yun kini, matuman na yun sa hingpit ang ilang plano o ang ilang advocacy, musunod na gayon. Kini mo ilang krusada. And therefore, when the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, Bishop David miingon, nga si Jesus nakigmek sa mga prostitutes. Si Jesus nakigmek sa mga tax collectors. Katong giila nga mga dautan. But what happened? Miingon ba si Jesus nga himuong legal ang prostitution? Miingon ba si Jesus nga dunay same-sex marriage? No! Because that violates moral law. That violates sanctity, which is the mission of the church. Matud pa from where? From within. Si Pope Francis misunod ni Jesus. If misunod pa ni Jesus si Pope Francis, unsa may ang gibuhat sa pag-mix with the LGBT? Unsa may ang gibuhat? Gibadlong ba? Gitudluan ba? Nga mao kini ang kahayag? This is the moral values? This is the teaching of the church? No! Unsa may gibuhat? Iyahahin noon nga gipanalanginan. Unya para mapermanente kamo, you will be protected. Then, ang mga gobyerno kinahanglan mo kasal kanila. Civil marriage. Protector of immoralities? That's a question. Protector of violation of the law of nature? That's a question. Protector of the divine law? A question. Ingon niya na agmaong mga pamaladtong. And so, the Pope's statement may be seen by some as the next step forward towards marriage equality. Kabantay ta? Gender equality? Man and woman equality? Distortion of the meaning. Freedom? Distortion of the meaning. Galatians 5:13, ayaw pasangil nga dunay kagawasan para padayunon ang kaulag ug lawas nung kabinuang sa tao. Ingon ang warning ni San Pablo. And so, unsa ba ang padayag? Nia si, let's quote, si Patrick Humbeck kini. Insider from the Catholic Church. The Pope's statement may be seen by some as the next step toward marriage equality. But the Catholic Church is far from taking that step, said Patrick Humbeck. Kinsa man kini si Patrick Humbeck, professor of theology at Pontham University. Usa ka professor magtutudlo sa balaod kunuhay sa Dios. Theology sa Fordham University. Kini si Humbeck nga mibiya who left the Catholic Church. Mihawa kini siya sa Catholic Church for the Episcopal Church before he married his same-sex partner in 2015. Maudi ay. Insider from the Catholic Church. Migawas sa simbahan kay gustong magminyo sa same-sex sa 2015. Within the church. And so, said Catholics who stay in the church have to do so with open eyes because it is not likely to change for decades. Miingon kini si Humbeck, as long as the Catholic Church continues to treat the lives and loves of the LGBT people as short of the divine plan for humanity, people who are LGBT will always have second-class status. So gusto siya nga dili kay second class. First class gyud nga status. Unya matud pa ni Reverend Faber Alex Nalitan, dili angay i-discriminate kining grupuha because they are the children of God. Matud pa ni Pope Francis, the children of God. Unsa bay buot ipasabot nining discrimination? What is the essence of discrimination? Kung mag-discriminate, ang purpose mao against sa disrespect, ang purpose is dili pag sanctification, that's not good. But if the purpose is correcting an error, regardless, dura lex sed lex, the law may be harsh, but that is the law. The purpose is sanctification. Mutubag niya na, mao si San Pablo. Unsay sulti San Pablo? San Pablo, Hebreo 12, verses 5 to 10. Ang amahan, mulatos sa anak. Mulatos sa anak. Para matulid. Sakit ang paglatos, but that is a discipline. It should not be treated as discrimination, because that is a correction. Kung masakit ang tao, dadon sa hospital ICU, dili ba? Kung dili madaag tablitas, operation? Dili ba sa operation, naadiha ang mga hiwaon ba kada, sakit kada? But that is general operation in order to save life. That will be happen. That's the correction role of the church. And so, niining puntuha karon. The issue now is, should we follow the law of nature offered by God, the natural law of gender, as embodied in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27 to 28, Genesis chapter 2, verses 21 to 24? O atong sundon, kining balwag niining American continents, North, South American continents, Australia, New Zealand, nga giguba ang plano sa Dios following niining gitawag o depopulation program. Ang solusyon niini, John chapter 15 verse 2. Putlon ang sanga nga dili mamunga. O Matthew chapter 5 verse 29 ngadto sa 30. Lugiton ang mata kaysa tibuok kinabuhi maimperno. And so, to save the church, kinsabay lugiton gikan sa simbahan, sakit man. Kinsa may social distancing out from the church, na ay warning San Pablo. Di mo mahiya, di ba mo mauwaw, na ay nakikipon sa ina-ina, hindi nagpagarbo pa mo niya na. Pahuwaa ka na sa inyong grupo, pahuwaa ka na, kadaot ka na kaninyo. That person will endanger the entire organization. Let that person be out from that church. And so, they will be done. Should Pope Francis resign to save the church? Atong iyampo, birhin sa kasilak, sidlaki ang among salabutan. Sidlaki ang dalan namong gilaktan, ug sidlaki ang tibuok kalibutan. Amen. Santos, Santos, Santos.